This guy wanted me to castrate him. Current or former sex workers, what is the strangest thing a client has asked you to do? I was a cam girl for about 6 months in college. My weirdest customer wanted me to make him weekly grocery lists, errands lists, and just general honey-do lists for things he had to do around the house. He was a young guy, maybe 25, and actually really attractive. British. He claimed he was lonely after his fiancée moved to Belgium for a year for school, and now they were on a break. These were all the things she used to ask him to do, and now she was too busy. So every week, I'd have a private show with him, and we'd drink coffee and go over that week's list, and I'd wish him luck at work that day. It was kind of sweet, kind of heartbreaking. My current significant other was an escort and we met through her work. I was her strange client. I was a law student at the time and had lost my previous significant other to suicide. I really had a hard time dating, because of time constraints, etc., so I paid an escort to date me. She would come over, and we'd make dinner, watch TV, fool around, take naps and generally be boyfriend and girlfriend on Saturday afternoon and evening. We did this for over 6 months. Every Saturday, she'd come over. She'd put on more comfortable attire and we'd decide on something to eat, either making it or getting takeout. Eventually she began to tell me what kinds of food she liked and what movies she wanted to watch. I'd take initiative and tell her what kind of sex I liked. And she did too. After a few months, we'd take afternoon dates to the park or to the movies. 6 months in, she'd stop leaving first thing on Sunday morning and we'd instead of breakfast, or go for a walk. Then it escalated to her showering Sunday morning and spending most of the day. I didn't know if she wanted more money, so one Sunday I offered extra cash and she became quiet and said that she liked me, and didn't want to do this anymore as she thought it was hurting me. I told her I liked her. 7 years later, I'm an associate partner at a firm and she teaches high school English. No one knows how we met or what she used to do. It's like our weird little secret. We have this funny story that will probably go to the grave with us. I was a strip club DJ for a bit. Had this one odd duck that would come in and pay girls like $200 to pee in a glass for him. This happened several times, then once the girl took it to a bouncer and had him pee in it. She took it back to him, he took one sniff and said this is a man's urine, left, and never came back while I worked there. Escort here, an Asian man asked me to lift my skirt so that my thigh was exposed and asked to take off my shirt. Okay, normal so far I thought. Then he pulled off his pants and I was like yay, it's get down time. He then proceeded to lick and kiss my right armpit and rub himself on my thigh. It took every bit of power to not burst out laughing. He came about 4 minutes later and asked me how I was doing, then asked me to leave. It was easily the most fun I've had on the job. I had a guy lay me out on the table, take my shoes off, get out a set of dental picks and mirrors and electric toothbrush, and do a dental exam on my feet. For an hour. Checking for cavities, polishing, flossing, etc. I was supposed to play the whole thing straight as if it was really my teeth he was examining. Never did his penis come out of his pants. It was actually a totally great time, a bit bizarre to start. I've got so many more, but that client story is my favorite. Former male escort here. Had a larger, 50-ish lady ask me to snuggle with her in a rocking chair. Wanted me to suck on her nipples as if I were nursing. She stroked my hair the entire time. It was really weird and kind of sad. Lasted for about 20 minutes. When we were done, she offered to jerk me off, but I told she could do so if she wanted to. She said no, so I got dressed and went on my way. Cam girl here, I hope that counts. I have a guy that comes in every few months and wants to have a pretend gunfight with me. Like, we face off, draw our weapons, and shoot each other. He is super specific with the wording he wants me to use, and it's such an easy show. Not me and not an escort, but I had this cute neighbor girl that worked in a sex shop. She had the usual assortment of clients, but one guy came as and asked to buy her socks for like $100. I was like, did you tell him where to go? Hell no, she says. I sold them on the spot and went barefoot the rest of the day. That night she went and bought a 20-pack from Walmart and kept them under the counter waiting for him to come back, which he did several times. My girlfriend is a prostitute and she's done some weird stuff. Apparently a lot of guys are into pain. She's punched clients in the balls, bit them until she broke skin and even put out lit cigarettes on them. All per their request, of course. She's been pooped on, peed on, ran a train on. You name it and she's probably done it. My only real issue though, is that she never charges them. A friend of mine used to date a girl who did webcam shows. One time, someone paid for a private session, she's on webcam with him, and he requests for her to ignore him. So apparently she just sat in front of the camera acting like he wasn't there, not really doing anything. Apparently that was one of the easiest clients she's ever had. I had a friend who was a phone sex operator. She's from South Carolina and has a strong southern accent. One of her callers was a black guy who wanted to be showered with racial slurs while he got off. She could only think of a few of the most obvious ones, so he had to help her along. Call me spear chucker, call me porch monkey, and so on. Used to work as a stripper a few years ago. Hands down, the weirdest thing was when a guy in the VIP section bought a few dances and then asked me to step on his penis in my 7-inch stripper heels. At first I was being careful, but then after he assured me that there was no way I could hurt him, I went to town. I even threw in a few combos where I'd step on it and twirl. It was actually pretty fun. Afterwards, he bought my thong for like $50. Really fun night. Part-time escort here. I'm a guy. I have had quite a few very strange and at times degrading experiences, but the two that stick with me the most are the reasons I still do this work part-time. First was a tiny and very beautiful Asian lady, probably 50 years old. I'm 45. I went to her house and explained in person what the services were that she could choose from. She said she just wanted to start by being held, a gentle hug. Well, after about a minute, I felt her crying into my chest. I'm 6'2". I just held her and she stood there crying for 5 more minutes before I just picked her up and took her to the couch. Then I sat down and held her for another 20 minutes while she was crying. Just soft deep sobs. I'm getting a bit teary-eyed remembering this. I asked if she was okay and she told me, without moving her face from my chest, that her husband never holds her, never has. So I just squeezed her a bit tighter and we sat there until the time was up. 45 minutes was what she paid for. The second is similar, yet different. A very tall and physically unattractive woman in her mid-30s wanted me to slow dance with her. She is 6 feet 4 inches. Her height, combined with her looks, had led to her never being asked to slow dance by anyone. We just danced for 90 minutes. It was pretty amazing to be honest. Both of those were strange, but even more than that, they were truly intimate. Most of what I do feels like masturbation with another person. Very impersonal and focused on orgasms. I have now pretty much focused the work I do on trying to have some kind of intimate connection. Dinner, dancing, cuddling, bathing, etc. On a certain level I have developed an addiction to it. I had an escort service a few years ago. One of the clients used to come with a plastic bag and a paper bag. He would get one of the girls to hold the plastic bag while he took a dump in it. Then he'd put it in the paper bag and take it to work. He said he would then hide the bag in various spots around his law firm, waiting for someone to find it, and that was his get-off. I used to do cam shows in college. Not regularly, just here and there when I wanted a little extra money. Usually to buy MTG cards. One guy paid for a private show and asked me to take my laptop to the bathroom and completely submerge myself in water for as long as I could. I was under for maybe 45 seconds and when I came up he had left the room. I still wonder what he got out of that. By the way, I am a guy. Not a girl. I'm a cam girl, as the name implies. Only saw this guy once, so maybe he didn't like my art skills, who knows. He asked me to draw on crazy eyebrows, like stick straight pointed upwards angry brows, so I did. Then I needed a clown scowl. That was enough for the face, so then he had me draw fangs on my nipples. Vampire boobs, haha. And then lastly, a face for my pussy. Complete with eyes, a nose, and mouth. We both had a lot of fun. I could see him and I don't think he was jerking it, just laughing hysterically with me. Wish he'd come back. Recently had a different guy ask me to just fart, like continuously. He didn't know that for fart porn vids the girls literally pump their butts with air. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I used to be a male escort, had a guy once who I had going so bad he was up in a swing and I was shocking the hell out of his balls while he begged and screamed for more. I told him to shut the hell up and stuck a plug up his butt, and that was the breaking point. I've had people use a safe word before and it's really no big deal, everyone has their limits, and I can dial the intensity back and adjust the play pretty well. This guy, however, wanted to escalate. He used the safe word to take me out of the zone in order to discuss the next thing. This guy wanted me to castrate him. I had to talk him down from that. He said nobody ever got him to the point I got him, and he was certain that it would never be this great again, so why bother? Let's fulfill this last request. I refused and gave him a bit of aftercare, sent him on his way. He came back a few times that month, never asked for that again. I'm a little late to the party, but I'm a current cam girl. I have been asked a lot of weird things during my time doing this. But I suppose the weirdest one coming to mind was being casually asked to poop on the floor during an otherwise vanilla sexting session. He said you can even do it on the tile for easier cleanup, as if he was throwing me a bone. I used to date an escort, and sometimes I asked her stuff about her work. One that I remember was a guy who insisted on having scalding hot water on him, like a few minutes after it boiled. On his back, on his chest, on his genitals, while he jerked off. Okay, here we go. So back in the day, life had taken a bit of a downhill turn. I'd moved to LA with my boyfriend, who dumped me soon after. I didn't have a job, and I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. What I did have was my body, and it was either food and sex, or the street and starvation. It was an easy choice. A few months later, some rich dude in a sports car pulled up next to my roommate and me. He wanted directions, though, and I needed money one way or another, so I took him to the hotel he was staying at. There, he invited me inside. He paid me for the whole night, and here's the weird thing, he didn't even want to have sex with me the whole night long. He ordered room service, champagne, and strawberries, and we watched sitcoms. It was almost like we were a couple. It may have occurred to me that he was gay, but hey, he was paying, so it was all good to me either way. Eventually, though, I got kind of guilty for taking this idiot's money and not at least giving him a blowy, so I took off his pants. Nothing special, truth be told, but he wasn't gay, so at least that was a relief. The next day, he paid me an obscene amount of money to keep me for the week he was in town, so I would provide him with a so-called girlfriend experience. In retrospect, that was the second weird thing he asked for. The third weird thing he did was give me money to shop for clothes. I mean, I get that he didn't want me going out with him wearing my work clothes, but this guy clearly had more money than sense. Whatever. New shiny clothes and shoes and forever. Drama ensued as it always does over the week, but when it was over and I went home, he did the weirdest thing ever. He stalked me in a limo and said he loved me. I mean, being a sex worker means you meet some crazy people, but this guy sure takes the cake. Weirdo. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button for more videos about the life of a sex worker. Click the right box for the sex worker playlist. And share your own stories in the comments below.